There was a certain man in Caesarea called Cornelius, a centurion of the band called the Italian band, a devout man, and one that feared God with all his house, which gave much alms to the people, and prayed to God alway. He saw in a vision, evidently about the 9th hour of the day, an angel of God coming into him and saying unto him, Cornelius. And when he looked on him, he was afraid and said, What is it, Lord? And he said unto him, Thy prayers and thine alms are come up for a memorial before God. And now send men to Joppa, and call for one Simon, whose surname is Peter. He lodgeth with one Simon, a tanner, whose house is by the seaside. He shall tell thee what thou oughtest to do. And when the angel which spake unto Cornelius was departed, he called 2 of his household servants, and a devout soldier of them that waited on him continually. And when he had declared all these things unto them, he sent them to Joppa. On the morrow, as they went on their journey and drew nigh unto the city, Peter went up upon the housetop to pray about the 6th hour. And he became very hungry, and would have eaten. But while they made ready, he fell into a trance, and saw heaven opened, and a certain vessel descending unto him, as it had been a great sheet knit at the 4 corners, and let down to the earth, wherein were all manner of 4-footed beasts of the earth, and wild beasts, and creeping things, and fowls of the air. And there came a voice to him, Rise, Peter, kill and eat. But Peter said, Not so, Lord, for I have never eaten anything that is common or unclean. And the voice spake unto him again the 2nd time, What God hath cleansed, that call not thou common. This was done thrice, and the vessel was received up again into heaven. Now, while Peter doubted in himself what this vision which he had seen should mean, behold, the men which were sent from Cornelius had made inquiry for Simon's house, and stood before the gate, and called and asked whether Simon, which was surnamed Peter, were lodged there. While Peter thought on the vision, the Spirit said unto him, Behold, 3 men seek thee. Arise therefore, and get thee down, and go with them, doubting nothing, for I have sent them. Then Peter went down to the men which were sent unto him from Cornelius, and said, Behold, I am he whom ye seek. What is the cause wherefore ye are come? And they said, Cornelius the centurion, a just man, and one that feareth God, and of good report among all the nation of the Jews, was warned from God by an holy angel to send for thee into his house, and to hear words of thee. Then called he them in, and lodged them. And on the morrow Peter went away with them, and certain brethren from Joppa accompanied him.
Around 96, 97. In 1995, there was a major split at the original school. And so you had some brothers that stayed at the school, and you had some brothers that went down and formed what became the House of David. I think the majority of camps that you guys see today were the ones that went to the House of David. Like HOI comes out of the House of David. My Camp Lives of Israel comes out the House of David. IUIC comes out the House of David. GMS comes out the House of David. Then you have the House of David camp itself. Light of Zion comes out the House of David. And I could go on and on. AOC comes out the House of David. These are the majority camps that you guys know. So that's kind of showing you that a lot of the brothers, the major brothers that y'all know, we all went to the House of David. That's what we did. That's neither here nor there. I'm not here to tell a history today. I'm just kind of giving you guys a little bit of a timeline before I go into this teaching. I'm being honest, right? So after the split, we went to the house of David, and things were good. And then I want to say around, let's call it 96, 97, Tahar of GMS and Gabar also, I was right there in the room when this came out, brought up that Cornelius, they believe he was an Israelite, not an Edomite. And to make a long story short, the house of David split. Tahar and them, he took his men from his camp was mainly in Connecticut. He took him and his men, and they went about their business, and the rest of the house of David stayed. And they began teaching that Cornelius was an Israelite. And then systematically over the years, a lot of other camps started looking into it, and we agreed that Cornelius is an Israelite. These are facts. But it started with Tahar from GMS. This is true. Even the elders, the original elders, switched the teaching that Cornelius was an Israelite. I'm talking about the elders that taught Tahar. Had to switch it because it was right. Brothers became the Church of Berea. We looked into it and found out the doctrine was right. In the spirit of true transparency, I was one of the last holdouts because I put so much faith and stock into the leaders originally that the way that they taught it, that I was one of the later holdouts on this doctrine before I changed it myself. These are facts. Tahar used to curse me out. GMS used to curse me out. This is before most of y'all time on YouTube. Tahar used to curse myself and Bun Lawyer out about it because we didn't switch it as quickly as everybody else did. But upon looking at the information, it's clear that Cornelius is indeed not an Edomite. Let's start there. Why brothers are teaching Cornelius is an Edomite? I'm going to show you guys why, and I'm going to give you guys information so that that needs to be put to bed today. The idea of Cornelius being an Edomite and you teaching that based on what's written in Acts 10 means, and I mean no disrespect, so I'm trying to find some good words, it means you don't study. And that's not a shot at anybody, but it means you don't study or you don't know history like that. So guess what? I'm about to teach you some history. And it's okay. I just told y'all, I myself was a long holdout from teaching this myself. And that I had to dive into the history books. And I'll give the brother credit. There's a brother by the name of Kanai Shar, good brother that was always on my grass about that. Like, Dan, you got to change that. You got to change that. You got to change it. You got to change it. And I remember Tahar doing videos and cursing me out. GMS is cursing me out. I'm a lawyer. And we refused to change it. And Kanai was on, every time I would talk to Kanai, he'd bring Cornelius up. I'm like, damn, brother. And then one day I said, you know what? I'm going to go into it. I'm going to look into it. And I looked into it. And I'm going to show you guys what I found. So let's get into it. I'm going to show you.
All right. Let's start off by saying Barakatah Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahushua.
My brothers, today we fight for our land, our families, and our honor.
Cut! Blake, what are you doing?
The name is Cornelius.
No, but it's very moving, but...
The name is Cornelius.
No, but it's very moving. But Cornelius, where is...
The name is Cornelius.
No, but it's very moving. But Cornelius, where is your chariot?
There is no finer ride in all the land. My Optima has aggressive styling and an interior fit for Caesar himself.
You do realize this is a period piece? You're about to fight a horde of barbarians from 16 AD.
Look, man, I'm not here for a history lesson, okay? I'm here to win. To victory!
Blake, what are you doing?
The name is Cornelius.
No, but it's very moving. But Cornelius...
Barakati Yahweh, Barakati Yahweh Shai, Barakati Yahweh, Barakati Yahweh Shai, Barakati Yahweh, Barakati Yahweh Shai, Barakati Yahweh, Bahashim Yahweh Shai, Ba Rechahakwadash, Call the Pa Arath, Hawad Wahaloyam, Rawatam Yadla, Allahaya Nawa, Yahweh, Bahashim Yahweh Shai, Ba Rechahakwadash. And what I just said in the Lashwan Kodash, the Lashwan Kodash being the ancient Paleo-Hebrew, or in other words, the true biblical Hebrew for holy tongue or language. And what I just said is, all glory, honor, and praises abundantly and continuously to our power, Yahweh, the true name of our Heavenly Father, who the world ignorantly and incorrectly calls God, and the name of his only begotten Son, our Savior, our Messiah, our Deliverer, Yahweh Shai, HaMashiach, who the world ignorantly and incorrectly calls Jesus Christ, and, or in other words, through the Holy Spirit. Double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone. Much peace, love, and respect to the brothers teaching and pushing this truth out the four corners of the earth. To the hopeful elect, the 144,000 and the 1/3, as well as the rest of the elect, scattered abroad amongst the heathen nations to the four corners of the earth, east, north, south, and west. To you I say, Shalom. This is your brother Ra'ib Tazadakwa coming back at you again, all through the spirit and power of Yahweh, Bahashim, Yahweh Shai, with another lesson. Yahweh Ratazah is going to be edifying and encouraging to you, Achim, and any Achwaf that may be listening and or watching. Cornelius was indeed an Israelite. Of course he was. All right. So this is part 10 tonight in an ongoing lesson series that I don't know. This is the last part of the lesson. When I say part, I don't mean as in parts 1, 2, 3, 4. This is the last topic I want to get into related to this lesson series, which has been inspired, by the damnable heresy dropped by the Genesis Israelites from within the camp. All right. That natural born heathen can indeed get deliverance and salvation alongside Israelites. All right. And so they dropped that bombshell of a damnable heresy, and this 10-part now lesson series has come out of that. And this is the last topic topic that I want to get into, which is proving and showing that Cornelius was indeed an Israelite, because that's one of the lies they're bringing in, that Cornelius was an Edomite. All right. And others as well, like Uriah the Hittite and others of King David's mighty men were heathen, actual literal natural born heathen, and a lot of false doctrines, a lot of errors that they are presenting, to try to support this damnable heresy, which is indeed just that, a damnable heresy. Okay, and so what I was moved to do was just to show that some of the things they were saying right off the bat, right out of the gate, were false and erroneous. And so if their opening statement is riddled with error, riddled with falsehood, riddled with misunderstanding and lack of understanding, if they're starting off with gross error, then how are they ever going to arrive at a correct destination, at a correct outcome, a correct conclusion? How can you start off with gross error all over the place and arrive at a correct destination or conclusion? You cannot, without repenting, of course, that is. And so when they open their mouth to start to present and support this damnable heresy, and only thing that's coming out of their mouth right off the bat is error, well, then you already know. Okay, and so that's what this has been doing, is showing that some of the opening things they were saying were flat out wrong, flat out error, flat out false. Okay, Cornelius was indeed an Israelite. Of course he was. All right, and so I couldn't help myself. Let me go ahead, before I talk about this, let me go back to let me go ahead and give the fair use disclaimer. Fair use is allowed under U.S. law for educational, commentary, criticism purposes, and the like. And that's, of course, what I'm using this clip here for. And that applies also to the Elder Apostle's video, although he would have no issue with that. We're just going to do it anyway so that YouTube can't, say anything about it. I'm sure the Elder Apostle wouldn't have a problem. But that's what we're using these videos for. We're using them for educational, commentary, criticism purposes, and the like. And I'm not profiting from it at all in any way, shape, fashion, or form. My YouTube page is not even monetized. I'm giving credit to the originator of the material. I don't know, the what do you call it? What do you call those things? The term is escaping me right now. The network. Yeah, that's it. I don't know the network that came up with this commercial. But anyway, Kia Optima 2015 Blake Griffin speech, Optima Kia, right? That's the title. And Kia Ukraine. Okay, so this is Kia Ukraine. All right, so credit is given to Kia Ukraine. Fair use is allowed. Fair use notice is given. And I'm going to come back to this one. Let's go back to the video that the Elder Apostle had up. And I'm going to pause it right there. And I'm going to go ahead. Like I said, the Elder Apostle, I'm sure, wouldn't have any issue with this. But I'm going to go ahead and give credit to the Elder Apostle. Anyway, Priest Daniela finally teaches Cornelius is an Israelite. Call Haloyim Yahweh Bahashim Yahweh. And that is beautiful, man. That is beautiful because, unfortunately, this is a rare thing. Let me finish giving the credit. Okay, and this is the Elder Apostle, of course, GMS Info Doc Space Channel 12. Subscribe, okay? Now, that's a beautiful thing, man, because what I've observed in this truth, what I've observed in human nature, point blank period, okay, in the truth and outside of the truth. Okay, what I've observed about human nature, specifically amongst us, the nation of Israel, the circumcision and the uncircumcision, okay, the wild olive tree and the good olive tree, okay, which all of that's Israel, okay, if you have the understanding. But what I've observed is that people don't determine, for the very most part, not just for the most part, for the very most part, people do not determine whether or not they believe something's true based on the right evidence. And nor do they do their due diligence. People are very, very lazy. Very, very lazy. People just like to fight. They don't stop to make sure that they're fighting. They can't be bothered to stop and make sure they're fighting on the right side. They just got to, well, I'm on this side and you coming against me, so I'm fighting. We fighting. And people, instead of being preoccupied with wanting to make sure that you're right and make sure that you got the understanding so that you can know you're right and understanding what the other side is saying, people just want to be right. They don't want to be wrong, especially when they've built their lives on something and now they're being challenged about that, because if they find out that they're wrong, then there can be heavy ramifications. They might realize that, damn, I just wasted 2 decades of my life, with something that's a lie. And they may have their income tied into it. They may have their reputation tied up into it. And people just don't stop to think that they have what's called a bias, man. There's another term. They're biased towards what they want to, they're biased towards what they already think is right, but a conflict of interest. That's what it is. When a question is raised and something is presented to challenge what you think is true, and that it's significant, in other words, whether or not it's true, this thing that's been presented, whether or not it's true, that's very important. It's very important. But there's a conflict of interest that keeps you from dealing with it with the care and the attention that it warrants. And the conflict of interest is, I don't want to be wrong. The conflict of interest is, I want to win. I want to win this disagreement. I want to win this argument. I want to win this fight. The conflict of interest is, well, my money is tied up into this and I don't want to lose my money. The conflict of interest is, well, my reputation is tied up in this. I don't want to lose my reputation. I don't want to look like I don't know what I'm talking about. See, there's a conflict of interest, and people don't stop to acknowledge the great danger that presents, and therefore they don't even have an opportunity to overcome it, because they don't even acknowledge it. It's like somebody's whipping your ass and you don't even know your ass is getting whipped, but you're getting your ass whipped all over the place. Okay, but you don't even know your ass is getting whipped. So how are you ever going to do anything about it? See, and that's what it's like. And so when a brother, this is an elder, he was there. He was at the original school. He's a contemporary with the elders and apostles of GMS. And now, he comes around to it. That's a beautiful thing. That's a beautiful thing. But this is by far the exception to the rule. And so that's why Elder Apostle Aramlab put the Kol Haloyim Yahweh Bahashim Awashah, right? Because he's giving praises, because this is a beautiful thing, right? And the priest Danya Allah, he went into a lot of the history, and I recapped this history like 2 parts ago, maybe 3 parts. And how did I know the history? Was I there? No, I wasn't there. All right, but I knew the history because I've heard Elder Apostle Tahar go over it multiple times. I've heard Elder Apostle Ramlap talk about it. I've heard Elder Apostle Gabar also talk about it. And so that's how I'm filled in with it. And even though it was mentioned multiple times, the story was always the same. And the three elders and apostles let everything be confirmed by the mouth of 2 or 3 witnesses. So you got 3 witnesses right there. 2 is sufficient, but we got 3, and they're all agreeing. And now you got this another contemporary who was there as well, Priest Danya Allah, who he corroborates it as well. So now you got 4 witnesses, and this witness is not even part of GMS. Okay, I think it's Lions of Israel. I think it is the name of the group or whatever it was. Let me see, because he had it. Salakia. Yeah, there you go. You can see it down there. Lions of Israel class. That's the YouTube page. That's the YouTube handle for the page he's doing this lesson on, and as he said, he was one of the holdouts. Okay, and what was one of the reasons that he was a holdout? Okay, I mentioned some of the conflicts of interest, but there's another one, and he mentioned a different one. Was he was just really rigid on what he was taught, from the elders, from the elders that taught our elders. Okay, Elder Apostle Tahar Gabar, Ramlab, and Danya Allah, and the others that were contemporary with them. The 7 taught them, and he was just, as he said in this video, you heard him say it, he was just really sticking to what they said, which that has some merit, but that can't be absolute. It cannot be absolute. Okay, it does have some merit. Okay, we should never lightly deviate from the apostles' teaching. And for those of you, I'm talking that statement is directly geared towards those of us that preach this gospel, right? But really, if you're not wanting to preach it, and you're just learning from the brothers that do the preaching, really understand that the word apostle means special sent out messengers. All the men of the Lord that are true prophets that are teaching this, we're all apostles. The 144,000 are all prophets and all apostles. But we just usually don't go around referring to ourselves as apostles. We reserve that title for the elders that have been laboring in this truth, 25, 30, 35, and 40 years in some case. But really, you say technically, but truly, in the truest sense, we're all apostles, right? But so just understand that. So if you're learning from a brother, you would not lightly deviate from that brother's the doctrine that he's preaching you. But we cannot hold to that absolutely. Okay, we do have to let every man be fully persuaded in his own mind, and we do have to be in the spirit of the Bereans. So, but that's what messed up Priest Danya Allah up until this point, and it's beautiful that now he gets it. Now he looked into it. He did the studying. Study to show thyself approved, a workman that need not be ashamed, rightly dividing the word of truth. He finally got around to it. And he looked into it. And that's beautiful that one of the other brothers continued to just stay on him. Hey, you got to change that. You got to change that. And he was like, it was annoying him a little bit. He was like, come on, man. He was like, come on, bruh. But he kept staying on. And that's love. And a lot of the times it's not regarded as love. It's regarded as hate. It could be presented in a less aggressive manner. But that's not always up to us how it's presented. Matter of fact, it's never up to us. Okay? It's always up to the Most High and what spirit he puts on us. I would say the default should be, more palatable to be, to make it as easy for the brother to receive it as possible. Say what you need to say. But the Most High sometimes will put the spirit on us to say things harsh and say things rough. And that's not up to us. But we shouldn't be doing it in the flesh though. Okay. Everything's in the spirit should be, right? So, the spirit isn't going to always have us rebuking a brother harsh, right? And it sounds like the rebuke that priest Daniel was getting was relatively mild, but it was steady though. And that steady rebuke, that steady encouragement, it was mild, but it was steady. And finally it got through, and that's beautiful. See? But you gotta have that due diligence to actually not let the conflicts of interest stop you from really looking into these things, because they're very, very important. It doesn't matter about being right. It doesn't matter about winning the fight. It doesn't. Hey, look, even if you're going to get the Most High, don't you trust that the Most High is going to take care of you? Okay, all right. You know, I've never seen the righteous forsaken nor their seed begging bread. Okay, and who gives a damn about, well, you know, you've been teaching this for 5, 10, 15 years, and if you admit that you're wrong now and you make the change, people are going to be looking at you funny and talking this, that, that, and well, let them do it. Well, let them do it, but you're good in the eyes of the Most High, and who can lay anything to the charge of the Most High's elect? So we can't let none of this stuff stop us. Okay, we got to do, and the objective is pure doctrine, pure truth, 100%. Okay, that's the objective. All the leaven purged out. That's the objective. And so this is beautiful. And let me see, is there anything else I wanted to touch on with this? So he mentioned that history, and this should shake up priest Sabak, because priest Sabak and a lot of the others, like the Genesis Israelites, I mean, you know, those former brothers and others, you know, I say former unless and until they repent, but it ain't looking like it. You would think something like this would shake them free. Because they've been going around pushing the lie that the elders at the original One West school, the House of David and all that they were teaching that the natural born heathen can get salvation. No, they weren't. That's a lie. And I know it's a lie because the men that were there have made it very, very plain, and they've been very, very adamant that that's a lie. It was never taught that the natural born heathen can get salvation. Now, what was taught was that Cornelius was an Israelite, obviously. What was taught is that Cornelius is an Edomite, a heathen, almost certainly an Edomite. That was taught, but nobody was teaching that Cornelius who could get salvation, though. They were just teaching he was an Edomite, okay? But they wasn't teaching that he was going to get salvation, all right? And so Zabak, priest Zabak says, well, from what I didn't hear him say this myself, but from what I've heard the elders and apostles say, priest Zabak had the mindset of, well, my elders taught that, you know, because he's contemporary with, you know, the elders and apostles of GMS and Daniel Allah. And he was like, well, my elders taught me that Cornelius was an Edomite or heathen. So that's what I'm going with. But it doesn't stop there. And it's beautiful that now priest Daniel Allah also brings out the fullness of the history. It's like, yeah, that's what they were teaching originally. And yeah, when it first came up that he might be an Israelite, they rejected it. But fast forward a little bit of time, whatever it was, a year, 6 months, whatever it was, a little bit of time, they looked into it and they ultimately agreed that yes, indeed, Cornelius is an Israelite. And they changed because it was true. So it makes no sense whatsoever to now stand on error because your elders were teaching you that error, and you're going to stand on it because that's what they taught you, without acknowledging that they ultimately changed it because what they were teaching was wrong, and they changed it to the truth. So priest Sabak saying, well, I stand on that because that's what my elders taught me, but they changed it. They changed it because they recognized that what they were teaching was wrong initially. Cornelius was not an Edomite. He was not a heathen. He was an Israelite, point blank, period. Right? And so that's why I like this other clip here. Let me go back over to it. Okay? And it's funny, man. And why does Blake Griffin have all this charisma and stuff, man? Because he's an Israelite. As it is written, we are the salt of the earth. Okay, we're the best dancers, we're the best actors, we're the best singers, we're the best at everything, man. And if we're not the best at something, it's just because we beat down. Okay, and we're not given an opportunity, we're not given a fair shake or a fair opportunity to get into that field, or something we don't want to do, we don't give a fuck about it. You know, maybe that's it too. Some stuff we just don't give a damn about. That's heathen. That's for the heathen, right? But when it comes to things we want to do, if we're given any type of chance, you can go ahead and get a leg up on us. That ain't going to matter. We're going to overcome that. If you give us any type of chance, we're going to excel at it because we are the best on the planet. We're the best on the planet. That's why our Father said when he said we are a peculiar people, a special treasure above all nations of the earth. And that's the reason why Blake Griffin was such a good basketball player. But not only that, you can clearly see he's got a lot of charisma here. And the dude's just funny. Right? But there's a lot of truth here.
Today we fight for our land, our families, and our honor.
Cut! Blake, what are you doing?
The name is Cornelius.
Boom. See, you got to understand this, man. Our enemy knows that Cornelius was an Israelite. Okay? The people that run this world, okay, the elites, they know that Cornelius was an Israelite. Okay? And let's say, for anybody that's going to be simple-minded and say, come on, man, let me see. What Blake Griffin look like? Where is he at? Let's get a close-up. There you go. He's no... You say the Israelites are the so-called blacks, right? So-called Latinos, Hispanics, Native Americans, Seminole. Well, as soon as you bring in the so-called Latinos, Hispanics, Native Americans, Seminole, it should be case closed. Because he could pass for a Latin tribe, right? But let's just say, you know, we're going to go with the Southern Kingdom. Because it was the Southern Kingdom back then. Man, Blake Griffin's not no so-called black man. And anybody simple-minded enough to say that, then that's why I'm prepared. I came prepared. I'm going to show you Blake Griffin's father. Okay? Yeah, here we go. Blake Griffin's father, you can see him right there. He's a Levite. He's a Haitian of the tribe of Levi, which would make Blake Griffin a Levite. And you see his mother right there, looking like a so-called white woman. Pure white woman, so-called. But don't be surprised if she's an Israelite as well, just looking like that. Okay? Through genetic mixing. Okay? But Blake Griffin's father, bloodlines are always pure, passed down through the father. His Haitian father laid down with this so-called white woman here, which she's probably an Israelite herself, just looking like an Edomite. But whether she's an Edomite or not, it doesn't matter. Because the bloodlines are always pure, passed down through the father. The mother is basically just an incubator that contributes half of the genetics. What do genetics impact? Only physical characteristics. Obviously. Look at them. Right? Okay? He's a little bit darker than his mother and a lot lighter than his father. Right? But half of the genetics come approximately, right? Half come from his father and half come from his mother, and there's a range. But don't be surprised if she's an Israelite too. She could be an Israelite, but it don't matter. If she's a heathen, if she's an Edomite woman, it don't matter. He is an Israelite because his father's an Israelite. Okay? And then I want to show you, okay? And you can see the so-called black features coming out there in that Los Angeles Clippers picture right there, slightly towards the left at the top. You can see it, man, especially with that short haircut. Okay? He's a so-called black man with extremely fair complexion and mixed genetics. But the blood flowing through his veins is 100% Israelite blood, a Levite. Okay, and you see his son right here. All right, you see his son right there. It's a little small picture. I'm gonna get you a better picture. His son looks like Blake Griffin. You can see that he ain't 100% a so-called white man, right? You can see that he looks like he's something. Okay, mixed, maybe Latino, Hispanic, whatever. You can see he ain't 100%. He mixed something genetically. No such thing as mixed blood. Genetically, he's mixed. You can see that. But his son looks 100% like a so-called white boy. 100%, because Blake Griffin's wife is a so-called white woman. Okay? And so his son, you mix Blake Griffin's genetics with half of his genetics with half of the genetics of a so-called white woman, and you would expect the son to come out and you can't see none of the so-called Negro or so-called black characteristics at all. And when you look at his son, you cannot. He looks 100% like a so-called white boy. But he is not. He is a Levite. Just genetically, he's mixed. Genetically, he looks like an Edomite boy, right? So-called white boy. But the blood flowing through his veins comes from his grandfather here. You can see his grandfather there. Okay, to the left with Blake Griffin and his mother, and then to the right, same thing. You can see, and that's his brother, by the way, and that second picture from the left on the bottom with the reddish maroonish shirt, that's his brother, by the way. You can see his father, right? The blood from his father goes down to Blake Griffin, goes down from Blake Griffin to his son, and that same blood is flowing through his son's veins, even though he looks like a so-called white boy. 100%. 100%. Blake looks mixed, but his son is 100%. And this is his brother right here, and his brother's wife. And his brother is also married to a so-called white woman. I don't know, and it don't matter whether she's an Israelite or not. Maybe they're Israelites too. It doesn't matter. But they're so-called white women. That's what they look like. And so they both marry women that look like so-called white women, right? And the offspring, the sons and daughters that are born into them, look 100% like Edomites, but they're not. They're Israelites. See, and you can see the children. Look at the son right there. Okay, all right. I thought I had some more pictures here, but you get the point. Okay, there's Blake Griffin, right? And you see, so what I'm simply saying to you is that you got to understand that there's a difference between genetics and bloodlines. Genetics impact what you look like. That's all. Bloodlines always, you can mix genetics. Bloodlines are always pure, never able to mix them, always passed down through the father. Mother has nothing to do with that. She has something to do with genetics. She has something to do with incubating. She has something to do with nutrition, nourishing the baby. Zero to do with bloodlines. That's 100% the father. Okay? So don't be talking to me about Blake Griffin isn't an Israelite or a so-called black man. Okay? He don't look like it. I give you that. But he is. That's his daddy. Okay? He's an Israelite. He's a Levite. Same tribe as me through the spirit. Okay? So we can do away with that. And let me see here. Let me see. There was something else I wanted to show you here. There it is. That's the right thing. Yeah. We'll say that when we get into Acts 10, right? But there's a lot of truth here. So let it play a little bit more.
For our land, our families, and our honor.
Cut! Blake, what are you doing?
The name is Cornelius.
No, but it's very moving. But Cornelius.
There's a reason why they had a so-called black man, even though he looks mixed. They know who his father is. There's a reason why they had a so-called black man play this Roman soldier, and they made his name Cornelius. There's no such thing as coincidences, ma'am. I don't believe in coincidences, ma'am. I said my line before I changed my voice, right? There's no such thing as a coincidence, man. Any good investigator would tell you, I don't believe in coincidences, ma'am. Okay? In other words, hey, if something went down a certain way, there's a reason. If they got a so-called black man, looking mixed or not, that's just to veil it a little bit. If they got a so-called black man to play, so-called an Israelite man, to play a Roman soldier, and they had him named Cornelius, there's a reason. This is not the only commercial in this. There's other commercials that are, like sometimes they have a good commercial and then they'll make a series of commercials in that same line, and they all are basically the same type of setting. This is not the only commercial where he was playing a Roman soldier. They made sure his name Cornelius is pushed in multiple commercials. They're putting it in your face that Cornelius was a so-called black man, an Israelite in the Roman military. And they know it, but you don't. They're putting it in your face. And why is that so surprising? I was going to get it when we got to scripture, but I'll do it now. Why is that so surprising? Okay, in the ancient Roman Empire, why is it so shocking that you would have Israelite men, so-called black men, in the Roman military? I mean, here we are in the revived Roman. Here we are in the revived Roman Empire, the Rome 2.0, the revived modern day Roman Empire. Don't you have so-called blacks, so-called Latinos, Hispanics, so-called Native Americans and Seminole Indians in the Roman military today? We find out that he was a centurion, and a centurion would be similar to an officer today, right? And that's the reason why I looked up African-American officers in the military. So he would be he would be a soldier over others. He would be like an officer, probably equivalent to like a lieutenant, or a captain, depending on which branch of the military you're in. Okay. Maybe a lieutenant colonel or whatnot, or I forget what it is. And cause I've been out of the military now. I forget what the rank is when you go up in the Army or the Marine Corps. I want to say I want to say, I can't remember, it's escaping me right now, but like a 03 or 04, maybe a 05, something like that. Okay, an officer, okay, with men under him. And in the Roman military it was 100. That's where you get the centurion from. Okay, cent going into century, going into 100, right? The cent goes to 100. But you see this. If somebody says to you, hey, a U.S. Navy lieutenant's going to be showing up at your house today, and you picture in your mind a so-called white guy, right? But then he shows up and he looks like this dude right here. You know, he looks like one of these dudes right here. You go, you don't bat an eye, because you understand that not everybody in the revived Roman military, not everybody in the American military is a so-called white person. Not everybody in the revived Roman military, not everybody in the American military is an Edomite. They're so-called blacks. I was in Esau's military. Okay? There's so-called blacks, there's so-called Latinos, Hispanics, there's so-called Native Americans. There's men in Esau's military from various different nations all around the world. There was a Filipino national looking every bit much like a Filipino. And I do believe and judge through the spirit, as I look back on how he was acting, that he was an actual Filipino, that he was an actual heathen. Because, you know, we got a lot of Israelites over there too looking like that. But no, he was an actual heathen. And he was in the military. He was in the military serving on the same submarine that I was on. See, so just because he says he was a centurion, that doesn't mean that he was of the people that were predominant and ruling over the Roman Empire. A centurion could be of the nationality of one of the nations that's subjugated, and that's the case with Cornelius. Okay, see, so and look, man, he was a high, and look at this guy here. Okay, he was what I think his title was the chief of staff, or the I forget what his title was. And of course, you know, you see Colin Powell there and everything too. But look at him, right? I mean. He from what I understand, if my memory serves me correctly, the guy second from the left at the top, I don't remember his name, with a stack of ribbons there, right? He was the highest ranking military official. Okay, I think he was the chief of staff or something like that. I can't remember what he was called. But you see here that there are so-called blacks in the military today. It was so-called blacks in the Roman military back 2,000 years ago. People see he was a Roman centurion. He must have been an Edomite. He must have been a so-called white man, right? Wrong. Okay? A lot of the times you would have been right, but not in this case. Okay? You would not be right in all cases. And in this case, you would be dead wrong. And so you just see. Okay? So it is not appropriate to just assume that the Cornelius being a Roman centurion, or he was an Edomite of the Italian band. That just means he was assigned there. Okay, you have military personnel getting sent all different places. This is an empire, man. This is an empire, and in this empire, Esau has 800, 900, whoever knows, you know, he's changing the number all the time. Used to be almost 1,000 bases around the world, 1,000 military bases around the planet. And guess what he does? He gives orders. He gives orders, deployment orders to personnel to go to these various bases. He may have been born in L.A., you know. But he may get assigned to a base over there in Italy. But guess what? So-called blacks are getting sent over there too. So-called Latinos, Hispanics, Native Americans. It just means he was assigned there. Okay? And so that has nothing to do with where he comes from. Okay? You got somebody in Esau's military and they get assigned overseas. Nobody goes, and then he says, well, yeah, I'm in such and such a regiment, over in Italy. Nobody go, oh, you must be an Italian then. No, everybody knows that's just where you're assigned. You actually live on halfway around the world. You actually live on the other side of the planet. You come from the other side of the planet. You just assigned there. So why does everybody get all I don't know, brain dead when they just see he was of the Italian band? Anyway, man, let's get a little bit here of this here.
No, but it's very moving. But Cornelius, where is your...
They driving that name home. They could have chose any name. Maximus, whatever, man. I mean, they could have chosen, they chose Cornelius, and not only did they choose Cornelius, they continued to keep it in your ears. Twice here in this commercial. And in the other commercials that are similar to it, they make sure they put it prominently as well that his name is Cornelius. Why? Because they know something you don't know. They know that Cornelius was an Israelite, a so-called black man. And they're putting it in your face, but you too ignorant to see it. Okay? Well, you're not now, but, you know, you were, or many still are. Okay? Like the elder apostle said, call halal Yahweh Shemashah, Barakah Wadash, if you're not. Okay? Because that's the hope. That's the hope. That's the intent.
Doing?
The name is Cornelius.
Cornelius.
No, but it's very moving. But Cornelius,
See?
Where is your chariot?
There is no finer ride in all the land. My Optima has aggressive styling and an interior fit for Caesar.
I must say, it's a great commercial. Okay? I don't like his, but the commercial's good. Okay?
Cut! Blake, what are you doing?
The name is Cornelius.
No, but it's very moving. But Cornelius, where is your chariot?
There is no finer ride in all the land. My Optima has aggressive styling and an interior fit for Caesar himself.
You do realize this is a period piece? You're about to fight a horde of barbarians from 16 AD.
Look, man.
A horde of barbarians from 16 AD. The barbarians were also Israelites. You had pockets of Israelites in various different places. And one of the pockets of Israelites was barbarians. You also had the Scythians, which were Israelites. See, they put a lot in there. Let me show you this. Is it barbarian or barbarians? Let's see. That's not what I'm looking for. Here it is. Colossians 3:11. Where there is neither Greek, which is an Israelite who was following the customs of the Greeks. Okay? And we got all this history in the lesson series that I've done, that I'm still working on, for God so loved the world. Okay? These Greeks were Israelites who had been raised according to the customs of the Greeks for generations. 4, 5, 6, 7 generations, whatever it is. Nor Judean. Okay, which the Greek and the Judean, or said here is Jew, both the Greek and the Jew are Israelites. Circumcision nor uncircumcision, same thing. The circumcision would be the Jew. The uncircumcision would be the Greek. Okay, Greek and Jew, Israelite. Circumcision and uncircumcision, Israelite. Barbarian. Why are the barbarians thrown in here? Well, it's because they're heathen, you know, it's open to the heathen too. Scythian. Why are the Scythians in here? Well, because it's open to the heathen. The heathen are in here too. Bond nor free. Wait a minute. Well, where are the rest of the heathen then? It doesn't say anything about any other heathen. So I guess it's only the Greeks. Okay? If you're taking this as being natural born heathen, I guess it's only the Greeks and the barbarians and the Scythians. All the other natural born heathen, they SOL, up the creek without a paddle. You know? No, they don't have a pot to piss in or a window to throw it out of. But the Greeks, the Greek heathen and the barbarian and the Scythian heathen, they're good to go. So salvation for the Israelites, the Greek heathen, the barbarian heathen, the barbarian heathen, and the Scythian. I'm being facetious, man. No, the Greeks, I already told you, the Greeks and the Jews are both Israelites. The circumcision and uncircumcision, both Israelites. I'm trying to talk too fast. The barbarians are Israelites. That's why they're mentioned here. And it was known. Now it's not so known. Back then, everybody knew that these Greeks, that when they said Greeks, they was talking about Israelites that were raised according to the customs of the Greeks. Everybody knew that. Okay? Now it's not known. It should be, because we're teaching it, but it's not known now. But back during this time, everybody knew that when he said there's neither Greek nor Jew, everybody knew that the Greeks were Israelites too. They just had been raised in accordance with the customs of the Greeks, so they were being called Greeks, but everybody knew they were Israelites. Everybody knew when he said circumcision and uncircumcision, both groups are Israelites. When he said barbarians, everybody knew, yeah, we got a bunch of Israelites over there, and they're the barbarians. And then when he says Scythian, everybody knew, yeah, those Scythians, that's a pocket of Israelites too. So when he said barbarian and Scythian, everybody knew that the barbarians are also Israelites. That's why they're mentioned. And the Scythians are also Israelites. That's why they're mentioned. Okay? So that they're putting it right in here.
Find a ride in all the land. My Optima has aggressive styling and an interior fit for Caesar himself.
You do realize this is a period piece? You're about to fight a horde of barbarians
Israelites.
from 16 AD.
Look, man.
That's right, man. Because the Romans, which although you had Israelites in the Roman military was predominantly Edomite, and they were controlled by the Edomites. Obviously, the Edomites were ruling in the Roman Empire, and so the Roman Empire, ruled by the Edomites, was coming up against the barbarians, or the barbarians was going up against them. So they put it right in here, which the barbarians is Israelites.
I'm not here for a history lesson, okay? I'm here to win. To victory!
Yeah, there's your Cornelius right there, man. Okay, you can't say they didn't tell you. All right. All right. Anyway, let's crack open this Acts 10. We're not gonna finish it tonight, but let's crack open the Acts 10. Let's get started at least. There was a certain man in Caesarea called Cornelius. Cornelius was an Israelite, man. And Barakatha Yahweh Shemashah, that Daniel Allah is now seeing that, and he's coming out and he's joining the right side, and hopefully that helps priest Sabak, because how can you got to change now, and I don't imagine that priest Sabak would not find out about priest Daniel Allah's lesson. So I mean, how could he not find that out? Okay, and what are the two former brothers over there in Genesis going to do with that? Okay, hey, look, man, I feel like they're gonna find some way to wiggle around it. Okay, but anyway, that's them. We're gonna do the righteous, true prophets gonna do what we do. You know, Yahweh as I be counted my sent number, and I do hope, trust, and believe I am. And the false prophets are gonna do what they do, no matter what. Okay, just like we're gonna serve Yahweh Shemashah and spirit and the truth, no matter what. They're gonna do their wickedness, no matter what. I mean, no matter what. You be like, okay, you certainly can't stay. You got to repent now, right? And they're not gonna do it. All right. Called Cornelius, a centurion of the band called the Italian band. Again, they were just simply assigned there. It has nothing to do with them necessarily coming. And by the way, you had a lot of Israelites there anyway. Okay? But it doesn't have anything. This is not at all in any way saying that Cornelius came from Italy. It's not saying that. Maybe he did, but it doesn't mean that at all. Any more than somebody in the American military, the new revived Roman Empire military, gets sent overseas on the other side of the planet, and they're of a regiment or a platoon or something that's assigned to some country on the other side of the planet. You know, they're not from there, and neither was Cornelius necessarily from Italy. Okay, all right. A devout man. You cannot find anywhere in the scriptures where you can prove that this word devout is used to describe any natural born heathen anywhere in the scriptures. Find it, post it in the comment section. You ain't gonna find it. I already did the search, of course, right? And I already knew what I was gonna find, but I still did the search though. You're not gonna find anywhere in the scriptures, anywhere you see this being used to describe men, it's talking about Israelite men, and one that feared the Most High. Come on, man. Only Israelites fear the Most High. No heathen fears the Most High in that manner. Okay, we're not talking about fearing the Most High like you know the Most High destroys Egypt and you get scared. You know, the Most High destroys the enemies of the nation of Israel and you get scared. Not that type of fear. We talking about that fear. There is talking about a fear that leads you to do what he says, which he's only told us what he wants to do, what he wants us to do. We're the only ones he's ever told. Okay, blessed are ye, O Israel, for the things that please the Most High are made known unto thee. Right? But even if the heathen did know, they ain't gonna do it. They ain't going to do it like that, okay? It's talking about a fear that leads to obedience, okay? It's talking about a fear that is born out of faith. It's talking about a fear that is born out of faith, and only Israel has faith, okay? And not even all the nation of Israel right now, but overall, you know, in a general sense, the nation of Israel. We'll get your precept on that right now. See here. Let's see. I'm looking for, I don't want to get a lot here. Yep, here. It's 70. I clicked on 71, but it's 70. For there shall be in every place. This is talking about in this time that we're in right now, and it's already begun. And you say, well, what? What's already begun? Tazara Yaquab. Ya'iquab to be exact, to be specific. Ya'iquab. Tazara Ya'iquab. Tazara being the ancient Paleo Hebrew for adversity, trouble. All right? Adversity, trouble, affliction. Let's go with the trouble. You'll see why. Tazara Ya'iquab. Ya'iquab being the ancient Paleo Hebrew way of saying the name Jacob. And in the ancient Paleo Hebrew, the correct way to do it is to put the descriptor after the object. That way, you know what in the English is backwards, but we're used to it, so it seems right, but it's backwards because they describe the thing and you don't even know what's being described until the next word comes out. It's the correct way to do it is to tell you what's being described first and then give you the descriptor. And that's how it is in Hebrew. Tazara, all right, which is adversity and trouble. Ya'iquab, Jacob's trouble. This is what it's talking about. For there shall be in every place, it's already started. And it's going to ramp up a whole hell of a lot more. And in the next cities, everywhere, a great insurrection, uprising, a commotion, all right, a turmoil, which is talking about Tazara Ya'iquab, which has already begun. The Cube Patrol people going around from city to city, harassing so-called Latinos and Hispanics. And probably pulling up some Native Americans and Seminole Indians in there too, so-called. And they're also harassing the Southern Kingdom, so-called blacks. Okay? Tazara Ya'iquab's already begun. Still low level, but it's already begun. And it is going to ramp up and intensify, and it's not going to take a long time. We're at the end. How can it take a long time? This great insurrection is talking about Tazara Ya'iquab. Upon those that fear the Lord Adawan. And who's it upon? Well, it's in the title. It's in the name. It's in the label. Ya'iquab, Jacob. Jacob's name changed to what? Israel. So sometimes you'll see the nation of Israel referred to as Jacob. Sometimes you'll see the nation of Israel referred to as Israel. In this case, the whole nation is being referred to as Jacob. And so that's what it's talking about. Upon those that fear the Lord, the whole nation. So the whole nation is referred to as those that fear the Lord. Okay? No other nation fears the Lord. No other nation fears the Heavenly Father. So if Cornelius, first what I'm showing you in verse 1 is that there is no reason to think he was an Edomite. None. But then when you get to 2, there's a hell of a lot of reason to think he was an Israelite. A devout man, Israelite. Okay, that's why he's devout. Ain't no heathen devout to the Most High. And one that feared the Most High. The only ones that fear the Most High are Israelites. But check this out. With all his house. Yeah, he had a household of Israelites. Which gave much alms to the people. There ain't no heathen giving alms. Hey, if the heathen gives something, call it tribute. Tribute. Right? Call it tribute. But find me a precept in the scriptures where a heathen is given and it's referred to as alms. You ain't gonna find it. You know, right? I already looked. And I already knew what I was going to find, but I still looked though. Okay? Every time you see alms being used in the scriptures, it's always in reference to Israelites, man. But you're going to try and say, well, Cornelius was giving alms, he was a heathen. Well, where's your biblical basis for that? Okay? Every time it's used in the scriptures, Apocrypha included. I searched all the books, 80 books. All right? Apocrypha included. All right? The additions to Esther doesn't count because it's an addition to Esther, right? So it's kind of included with the book of Esther, right? And I searched it, and every time it's always clear that it's talking about an Israelite giving alms, or it's Israelites being instructed to give alms. Okay? A devout man and one that feared the Most High with all his house, a household of Israelites, which gave much alms. Israelites give alms, man, to the people, and prayed to the Most High always in prayer. The Most High isn't hearing the prayers of the wicked, man. He isn't hearing the prayers of any goddamn heathen. He isn't. Okay? The wicked are an abomination to the Heavenly Father, but he hears the prayers of the righteous. That's what it says in the book of Proverbs. Okay? Most High gonna be listening to the prayers of an Edomite that he hates. All right? Let me see here. Yeah, we're going to get 3 and 4, and we'll wrap on that. We'll get a precept for that in Revelation 5, rather. And we'll wrap there, and we'll come back and pick up 5 next time. I don't know how far we're going to go down here. We're going to get a lot. So, we probably just go through the whole chapter, or most of it at least. But we're going to stop at 5 tonight. But we got a precept to get. I said 5, I meant 4. We're going to stop at 4. And we got a precept for that in Revelation, the 5th chapter. He saw in a vision, evidently about the 9th hour of the day, an angel of the Most High coming into him and saying unto him, Cornelius. And when he looked on him, he was afraid and said, What is it, Lord? And he said unto him, Thy prayers and thine alms are come up for a memorial before the Most High. Something pleasing to the Most High. Something that the Most High is, for lack of a better way to put it, being intentionally mindful of. Something that the Most High is taking notice of. The Most High is like taking notice of that. And that's because obviously he's an Israelite. But not only any Israelite, he's a member of the elect. And now it's the time for him to, come all the way in. Okay, the Most High is opening it up all the way through the death, burial, and resurrection of Yahushua. All right, to these Israelites who had once upon a time been afar off. Okay, they weren't always afar off, but now once upon a time they had been afar off. At this particular time, okay, before they were close, they were included, and then they were far off, and now they're being brought back. This is the understanding. Okay, so that's the reason why his prayers and his alms are come up for a memorial before the Most High. Let's go over to, that would never be the case if this was a natural born heathen. Let's go to Revelation 5. We're going to get 6, 7, and 8, and then we're going to wrap it for tonight. And I beheld, and lo, in the midst of the throne and of the 4 beasts are angels, and in the midst of the elders, also angels, stood a lamb. The lamb represents Yahushua Mashiach. All right, behold, the Lamb of the Most High that taketh away the sins of the cosmos, that taketh away the sins of the apt and harmonious arrangement. That's what cosmos means. That taketh away the sins of the order, the constitution, the government, singular, such as, for example, the government of Israel. That's what the word cosmos means. Okay, it's not talking about the whole planet. Okay, it's talking about Israel, the world of Israel, the apt and harmonious arrangement, order, constitution, government of Israel. Okay, that lamb is Yahushua Mashiach, his only begotten son, as it had been slain, having 7 horns, power, complete and total, all power, man, and 7 eyes, all right, complete and total wisdom, knowledge, and understanding, which are the 7 spirits of the Most High sent forth into all the earth. And he came and took the book out of the right hand of him. This is the Most High. This is Yahushua taking the book out of the right hand of the Most High Yahweh, our Father, that sat upon the throne. And when he had taken the book, that he is Yahushua, the 4 beasts, angels, and 24 elders, also angels, fell down before the Lamb. They're worshiping the Lamb. But Sakari says, and the Genesis former brothers say, you don't have to worship Yahushua. But these angels here, these angelic powers here, they're worshiping Yahushua, but you don't have to. I guess you must be higher than these elders here, and these angels, these 4 beast angels. You must be higher than them. Okay, having every one of them harps and golden vials full of odors. What are the odors he's talking about? Okay, G2368. Thumiyama. Okay, that would be it. Let's see how I did.
Strong's G2368. Thumiyama.
All right, a little bit different phonetic, a little bit different enunciation, but yeah, did all right. An aromatic substance burnt. In other words, basically incense. Incense that have a very, very pleasing aroma. Just you burn the incense and it smells so good, man. It's just like, We ain't got incense like that on this side. The incense we have are very, very low quality. But we use what we got, right? But this would be like extremely high quality, like, just you can't get any better. I mean, the smell as you burn the incense is just like beautiful. It's just like, man, it smells so good. And that's what it's like. Okay? It's talking about a very extremely pleasant aroma. from burning incense. Okay? Having every one of them harps and golden vials full of odors, which are the prayers of saints. So these odors are the prayers of saints. Well, who are the saints? The saints are identified in the scriptures, multiple places. I'm going to get one for you, as Israelites. Okay? There are no heathen that are saints, man. Natural born heathen, that is. There are heathen that are saints, but those heathen that are saints are actually Israelites, just being called heathen. There are no natural born heathen that are saints. You're not going to find any precept anywhere in the scriptures where natural born heathen are described or identified as saints. The only people in the Bible described and identified as saints are Israelites. And here's one of the places. Might as well get you to. Psalms 50 and 5. Okay, we're already in the book of Psalms. Gather my saints together unto me. Well, I might as well get you 3. Those that have made a covenant, this is who the saints are, with me by sacrifice. If you don't know that that's the Israelites, I can't help you, man. Okay? Everybody knows that's the Israelites. Everybody knows that. Daffy Duck, man. Donald Duck. Daffy Duck. All right. Mickey Mouse. Everybody knows that's the Israelites, okay? So I shouldn't have to tell you that. Let's go. Let's get another one. All right. I think I get it mixed up sometimes. Let me see here. Yes, got it right. He also, that he is our Father, the Most High Yahweh, also exalted the horn, meaning the power of his people. You know who his people are? Israel. The praise of all his saints. Okay, yeah, his people is Israel, but the saints is talking about a different group. Even Old English of the sons, Hebrew word banyam, it is indeed gender specific, of Israel. So no, people and saints are not different groups. And if you think people is Israel, but saints is a different group, well, then we get to the sons of Israel. That's back to the nation. Actually, you can't even say that, man, because this is Old English, and in Old English, even is an equal sign. In modern English, even is an addition sign, meaning plus. Okay. Yeah, hey, all of y'all can come. And then you look over at somebody that you don't like and you say, even you. And you add him. It's an addition, a plus sign. Not so in Old English. In Old English, this is the what? 1611. Oh, 1611. That was like centuries ago. Yeah, Old English. 1611, King James Version. So in Old English, even is an equal sign. It's used for emphasis, or in other words. Okay? It's used for emphasis or to put something in other words. It's an equal sign. He also exalted the horn power of his people, the praise of all his saints. Same group that his people are the saints, even in other words of the sons of Israel. So it's telling you right there. When you understand that even is an equal sign, it's telling you right there that the saints is the Israelites. Boom. Just right there. All right, let me put it to you. Let me see. Yeah, the NLT does a good job here. He has made his people strong. You should understand his people is the Israelites, honoring his faithful ones. Dash, in other words, the faithful ones he's referring to is who? The people of Israel. Because it really is that plain in this verse, that the saints are the Israelites. A people near unto him. And really, this is another hendiatrus. One thing said 3 ways. Praise ye Yahweh. The first way it said is his people. The second way it said is his saints. The third way, and the even of the sons of Israel is just telling you who the saints are, just point blank period. That's just straight talk. The third way is a people near unto him. So you got his people, a people, his saints, all talking about Israel. Let's get one more. Praise ye Yahweh. Sing unto Yahweh a new song, and his praise in the congregation, the assembly. That's the word that the NLT used, and that's a good word, congregation, assembly, church of saints. Well, who's the saints exactly? Let Israel, that's who, rejoice in him that made him. Let the sons of Zion be joyful in their king. Right? You're not going to find anything different, man. Stop wasting your time. The saints are identified in the scriptures as the Israelites. You say anything else, you're in error. Okay? So when we go back over here, and we find out that he also exalted. We're going back to Revelation. And when he had taken the book, the four beasts and the 24 elders fell down before the Lamb, having every one of them harps and golden vials full of odors, which are the prayers of saints. So the prayers that the Heavenly Father has regard for are only the prayers of the saints, which are Israelites. And even right now, only the Israelites that are of the elect, only the Israelites that are acknowledging the Son. See, so take that understanding that we just got back to Acts 10 and 4. And when he looked on him, he was afraid and said, "What is it, Lord?" And he said unto him, "Thy prayers and thine alms," thy what? Prayers, and thine alms. Nobody's giving alms in the scriptures except Israelites. I already told you, I did the search. Are come up for a memorial before the Most High. If Cornelius's prayers are up before the Most High as a memorial, we already dealt with the arms. I'm focusing on the prayers now. If his prayers are a memorial before the Most High, that means he has to be an Israelite, and I just showed you that. Let him who has ears to hear. And so we'll continue at verse 5 next time. And so with that, I'm going to go ahead and wrap this up. Before I do, want to give all glory, honor, and praises to Yahweh, Bahashim, Yahweh Shabbat, Rechak, double honors to the apostles and elders, a great millstone. Much peace, love, and respect to the brothers teaching, pushing this truth throughout the four corners of the earth. I don't want my desire this lesson was edifying and encouraging to you, Achim, and then the Achwat that may be listening and or watching. Ayashmi Akwana, Azanim Shemai. Let him who has ears to hear. Kwam Yasharala, Baba Kusha, Abad Babal Etha, or call Adawam. Shalom Lahabachariam, Shalom.